Well, if it's Thursday morning, it is time for the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. I'm Steve Casillo. Appreciate you being here today. You are either watching live on Facebook, you're watching the video on YouTube, you could be watching the video on LinkedIn, or you could be listening to the podcast right now on Spotify or Pandora or Apple Play or Google Play or any of those. That's the way we do it right here, is that we give you multiple opportunities to listen or to watch the video. And today we're talking about your trees with your friendly neighborhood arborist, Cameron Scott. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Say hello, Cameron.
Hey everybody, glad to be here, Steve.
And as you can see, Cameron is in his car today. You're out and about. Where are you today?
I'm up in the Woodhaven neighborhood of Fort Worth, zip code 76112.
The Woodhaven area. Lots of trees out there, are there not?
Oh yeah, it's an older neighborhood. Used to be a country club around here, but that's long and gone. But the trees are still here.
And as I mention every week, we live here in Mansfield, and I don't know a homeowner in Mansfield. I know a lot of homeowners in Mansfield, but I don't know a homeowner in Mansfield who doesn't own a tree. And so this topic, this episode is right up every Mansfield homeowner's alley. And today we're talking specifically about tree planting and establishing that tree. So let's go ahead and get right into it. What are some common pitfalls that people fall into when planting a tree?
Yeah, so everybody has great intentions when they want to plant a tree, right? Right? They think they're doing great, but what happens is you can't just, plop a 50, 80-gallon tree in the ground and call it good. It needs some care and as it establishes into that native soil. So some issues that people run into when they're planting trees is, number one, the most common issue I see is that they're planted way too deeply. So you got to make sure that what's called the root collar is visible when you're done planting. So that means the first roots are kind of descending down into the soil. Think of it like a wine glass, where you have the stem, which is the trunk, and then at the base of the stem is the base that kind of flares out. That's exactly the look you're going for. Another pitfall people fall into is that they don't break up the root bulb while they're putting it into the soil. So these trees have spent, 2, 5, sometimes even 10 years just growing in a pot. So that means the root system has been circling around its entire life. So it's important to kind of break that up so that the roots establish into the native soil and don't continue growing in this circular pattern.
And so that gives the roots a chance to distribute outwardly instead of being stuck in that ball.
Right. You don't want your tree just growing in the same soil it's been in that pot for the last however.
And that also, I would assume, gives the roots a chance to establish then in the new soil. And well,
right.
Let me ask you this then: do roots ever run into a problem of really establishing themselves in new soil, especially in North Texas, where the soil can be clay versus a sandy soil, a loam? Are there different ways to address the soil when it comes to planting a tree?
Absolutely, yeah. What I recommend and what I do when I plant a tree in my house is I get some organic compost and I kind of put it in the hole that I'm digging. You want to get the hole probably about 1.5 times the size of the root ball, and just kind of line the base of that hole with this organic mulch and compost. You're trying to make it more inviting environment for the new root growth to establish into that native soil. The other thing that you're going to want to do is make sure your newly planted tree gets plenty of water. When you have that fresh hole in the ground, it's not as compact as it once was. So it's a lot more prone to dry out, especially in the summer months. You're going to want to make sure it's irrigated regularly the first probably 6 months to a year that it's in the ground. After that, you should be pretty well established and you back off watering.
All right, so we're on the topic of watering. I've just put that tree in the ground. How frequently should I be watering that tree?
Probably every other day, depending on how big it is. If it's a real small one, you're probably looking at every day, especially through the summer months. You want to a simple like surface watering. That's not what you want to do. You want to get a deep watering that's going to kind of mimic rainfall. So, putting the sprinklers on, that's not really doing it. What I would recommend is getting a soaker hose and putting it around that tree for a good 6 hours or so. What you always want to do, you never want to add a day of watering. You want to add hours of watering.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a good time of year when it comes to planting a tree? I'm kind of thinking summer's not a great time because it's pretty dry, but you're the expert. You tell me, is there a good time of year to plant a tree?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's so the late fall into the early winter is the perfect time to plant a new tree. So by that time the temperatures come down a little bit, but the soil is actually still a little bit warm, so it's really inviting for those new roots to get established. And then the above ground portion of the tree that's likely going dormant at that time, so it's just it's an overall less stressful time of year for the tree to be messed with. Summer, it's just there's a lot going on. It's the middle of the growing season. They just spend all of this energy putting out new leaves. It's really, really stressful for a tree to be planted in the summer.
In the couple of minutes that we have left, is there anything that you want to add that listeners or viewers should know about planting a tree or establishing the tree?
Sure. I would say probably a smaller tree you're probably going to have more success with, just because it's spent less of its life in a container. It has more time to grow and develop into its own thing. If you buy these large trees, these very costly trees, they really those are the ones that I see the most problems with, because they've spent their whole life in a large container, and they can be root bound, and they can have trouble establishing into the native soil. You just have a lot more flexibility if you go smaller.
I did mention in a couple of episodes past that I just recently purchased a crepe myrtle, and now that we are into the early part of spring, we planted this tree. I think it was back in November, December, and in our front yard, it has just busted out. In fact, now it's got these really deep, dark red flowers that are coming up into it, and it makes me. I'm not a green thumb at all. It makes me feel like I did something right.
Wonderful. Well, no, planted it during the perfect time, got established over the winter, put out that new growth in the spring, and now it's crepe myrtle. It's blooming in summertime.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, though, I can tell that it's springtime because today my allergies are going nuts. And so I don't know if you probably run into that, and as you're going around town, that a lot of your customers have dealing with allergies.
Yeah. Personally, I'm lucky enough to not have that sort of allergies, but my fiance does, and she lets me know about it. So blames it on my trees. Yeah.
If someone had more questions about planting a tree, establishing a tree, maybe how to handle their allergies, how can they reach out to Cameron Scott?
Sure, you can give me a call. My office phone number is 656-86. Let me start over.
Let's go ahead and give that number out again.
Office number is 817-656-8733. And my email address is cscott@bartlett.com.
He is your friendly neighborhood arborist. He's Cameron Scott. He comes in every Thursday here live on Facebook. And again, you can watch the video replay on LinkedIn or on YouTube. You can listen to the podcast on your favorite podcast player. Cameron, let's go ahead and do this again next week.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Thanks for being here.